Hi guys, Phil here. Welcome to another exciting edition of Graphics Wizardry. I'm going to do a quick render of this drawing of a drill that I've done. You notice I've actually already tidied it up. I've gone through that enough times today and in various videos, so I'm not gonna do it. I'm not doing it. I'm not doing it anymore. I refuse to. What we're gonna do today is quite like a loose render using this 50% grey background. We're going to be working on this layer called paints, and we're going to be just using quite a rough and ready rendering technique, basically just building up density and colour bit by bit, basically just density, and then we're going to go in and add colour at the end. So let's see where we go. So I'm using the mouse today and make sure that we've got everything set up right. Let's increase the spacing a bit so that it's a bit less heavy. So it's all going to be fairly loose. I'm not going to agonise too much over everything. The first thing that I'm going to do is just go in and try and define the rough shape of everything within reason, I guess, and communicate some of the curves that are on the surface of the drill. You notice that I'm not worried about the outline of the drill, because what I'm going to do is at the end, let's just double check that this is going to lock in. I'll be able to, oh, that's the wrong way around, basically just select everything here using this. I don't want that yet. So the outline of the drill itself is going to be taken care of by the drawing. I'm not going to work to a degree of precision that's going to require me to get rid of the pen lines. We're going to work so that it's going to retain that sort of sketch feel. I'm not going to go in crazy precise and do loads of sharp masking. So, I'm not a million miles away from having the rough shape blocked out. One of the things that I talk to the students about a lot is sort of working in a way where you're continually adding, for heaven's sakes, usefulness to the drawing. So rather than, I mean, at this point I could be going in and adding lots of fine detail in to some specific areas. But rather than do that, I think that the most important thing to do is to work in a way where you're continually sort of finishing it, like kind of finishing it, I think was the phrase that I was using. So you're constantly kind of finishing. So at this point, if somebody said, oh, Phil, can you just send us the screening of that drill that we're working on to present to the client? I've added enough that it is in some sense useful. It's not, I mean, it's not a finished picture, but I've added enough that it communicates more. So it's kind of finished in a way. And then each step that I'm going to take of basically masking stuff out now and adding more detail in a more structural shape is going to bring it towards a more finished state. But it's constantly going to be working in a place where it's each time sort of, not the wrong one, kind of finished. I'm not quite sure whether that really makes sense. It's probably the fact that it's 11 o'clock at night and I'm really tired. I'm just going to pretend it makes sense. You guys can figure it out another time. So you notice the way that I'm working at the moment is basically with black and white set as foreground and background colour. We're working at 20% or 10% opacity, and I can switch easily between black and white so that I'm painting either highlights or shadows by just clicking X on the keyboard. X swaps over whatever the two foreground and background colours are. So in this case it's actually a really quick and easy way of managing those two colours that we need. So, although we're not going to reach a point where we're at a sort of photographic level of detail, this can be a really quick way of building up your render. And even though it's not the most precise way of working, it's still, I mean, we've still got quite a lot of nice structural depth being placed into the drawing. Okay. So working on sections like this, you can see it's really quickly that all I'm doing is hiding the outlines, basically inside the lines of the drawing, and adding these areas of sort of highlight in. And it's these areas of contrast that you're looking for. That's where the drawing is going to be sort of lifted. I'm actually tempted to put a little bit of a, you guys know that I love the old self-cast shadow. I think it might be overkill just here. Let's try it. No, obviously it's not going to be brighter. Nah. I think it could stand a shadow running across there to pull it down a little bit, and the same with this just here. Sorry, I've been using PCs all day and it's screwed up my ability to remember all of the Mac key commands. Okay, so I don't have anything really elucidating to say about this. It's just a case of digging in and applying the techniques that I guess we've talked about quite a lot. Let's get a hard edge on this. So this section here looks reasonable. I'm going to reproduce this kind of down here. Oh, the black line's not very thick here, so I have to be a bit more careful about where this line goes. So we're building up I think we're building up a nice bit of maybe some structural depth across here. Let's just build this in a little bit more. For heaven's sakes, there we go. So we've got a bit of depth there at the bottom. Let's just pull this down and add a little bit more darkness across the bottom of this bit here. I think the handle could probably stand to use a bit more shading, say at the top, certainly. To better communicate the fact that it's recessed, or it goes underneath the shape that a bit, shape this bit here maybe. this. So we've got a bit of return highlight on the bottom there. So I'm kind of doing what I mentioned before about working towards sort of phases of it being kind of finished. Because the state we're at now is we're part of the process is finished, so we've got a useful product as a drawing. We've got something that's, again, that looks all right. But what I'm going to do now is go in and just make some more little parts of it sort of work as well as possible by using like finer detail. The example that I give to the students is that if you're if you're making a clay model, for example, you don't leap in and start doing the small detail first. You physically can't. You have to, do some of the rough and ready stuff and like rough out some of the shape. And it's kind of the same with this, that you need to be able to rough out some of the broader shapes, which is what we've done so far, and then kind of dig in and use other tools to create a decent sense of depth. So we're just doing that like shut line just there. And I think that's going to be a material seam, so that this front section is perhaps metal and this back section is like shockproof plastic or whatever. I'm actually going to just quickly edit something on the pen lines, because when I drew this, it actually just goes straight through just here. And it's not exactly what I want. I want there to be some detail so that it catches when you do the fill. The Magic Wand tool that I was talking about earlier. So let's just lock that again. Right. Okay. That should work a bit better now. Right. too bright. Let's just pull that transparency opacity down a little bit. The goal is not to be 100% perfect with this handle, the way that the grip is working, but hopefully communicate a little bit of the way that the different surfaces sit relative to each other. Let's see if I can just add a bit more depth into the inside of this. Does that work? Yeah, maybe. Just there's the important bit, I think. Now, if I wanted to be a bit obsessive about this, I could dig in and add some highlights across here and lowlights to really sell the dents in and out just here. Can I be bothered to do that? I don't know. That bit looked quite nice then, but was it worth it? No, I don't, probably not. Life's too short, yeah. But anyway, that's the kind of thing that I was talking about in terms of adding in additional detail. That I could easily go in and do the sort of a more complete render on that section there. Okay, I must have pressed the wrong button just here. Okay, so we've got some structural shape to everything now. It feels like it has some three-dimensionality. So let's just actually do the thing that I keep sort of doing. I'm just going to expand this so that at the moment the selection is right on the outside of the lines. If I expand that selection, now it's inside the lines. Control Shift or Command Shift I, and I can hit the mask, so it pops out from the background. I think that looks alright actually. It's got some, like I said, it's got some structural depth to it. Anyway, what I was talking to the students about today is being able to create colour and using that to differentiate different textures and materials. So I'm going to go in and add this hue and saturation. If you just grab the hue at the top, it doesn't do anything. We need to hit colorize. And you can control whether you end up with like a light or a dark color by sliding the lightness at the bottom. Basically, the lightness is, if you drag it down to the left, it replaces the white with the yellow or whatever the color is, and then conversely it replaces the black, and you go from black to blah blah blah. If you play with it, you'll soon understand exactly what it does. I want to lighten this up, increase the saturation, because I want to have a really vivid construction-y kind of plastic for this. So now we've got the man with the golden drill, which is not exactly what we want. So I'm going to just use the same selection tool that we've just been using, the polygonal lasso tool. Invert the selection and press delete. Press delete. And you see it on the little mask just here, we've masked out everything apart from this this section just here. And what I can do is, by painting black on this hue and saturation layer mask here, we can basically paint with the colour, and by controlling how and where it expresses on the artwork. So it may be that I want to have the, is it called a trigger on a drill? Because it's on a gun, it's a trigger, isn't it? I guess that's a trigger. You can have this section of the battery pack at the bottom made out of that nice yellow plastic. Hit it so that the button just here is plastic. And I guess these bits here are if not plastic, then maybe rubber that is in the same kind of colour. So because this is still live as well, it's interesting that we can just quickly, if we wanted to see how it would look with a different colour set. Oh, the blue looks quite nice actually. Let me dark that down a bit. Yeah, it's very construction-y, isn't it? That one's got that sort of DeWalt look. Turn the colour up a bit. So I'm actually going to add in a second hue and saturation layer. Only this time what I'm going to do is use it just to slide the lightness down. Now, this seems again like a slightly weird thing to do. I'm going to click Control I now, so it doesn't apply it. And now by painting white on the layer again, I can choose which sections are going to have this applied to them. So we've kind of got this metal, and we've got this is maybe like another black plastic. I want to paint in these sections that are around here. So I've picked up the selection from the yellow hue and saturation, Control Shift I to invert that selection, and now I can paint within that section there. And again, because of how we've been working, I can always tweak this so that we've still got that sense of it being sort of live and in place. So, do you know what? I reckon that's pretty good. That's nice, isn't it? Does not look nice? I think that looks like a drill. I don't think that somebody looking at that would struggle to visualize what it would look like in three-dimensional space. Essentially what we're trying to do. If I wanted to communicate sort of different materials, I could put a nice metal texture on here. I could drop in, you know, the colour of the moulding and stuff that's going to be used on here. I could make it all sort of conform in 3 dimensions and everything. That would be great. But I don't need to because it doesn't need it. It looks quite nice like this. I'm just going to create a new layer underneath. I've picked up the selection from the paints just here. I'm going to fill that black bit that you can't see now with black. And put a very broad Gaussian blur on it. Actually, what you can see now is that because of how I painted in the colours, they're visible. So I'm just going to sweep through these hue and saturation layers. There we go. So let's just name that layer Shadow, and this layer is going to be called Gradient because guess what I'm going to put on it? That's right, a gradient, although perhaps not that gradient. Let's go black to white top to bottom and then just pull down the opacity a little bit. The other way. I think perhaps that's the way. So there we go. A nice drill. If you like this drill, then I guess you need to just draw it then. Draw a drill. Break open Photoshop and saunter through some of these amazing techniques that we've just been going through. I'm going to hopefully be doing a few more of these soon. I hope you have found this useful. If you're interested in keeping on top of these and being notified when new videos hit, and like I said, there should be some more soon, then you want to subscribe. That's it. Just press, there it is. The button's right there. Dude, I mean, you're right there. Just touch it. Just subscribe. Or don't. It doesn't really matter, does it, in the grand scheme of things? Then hit the comments box below and let me know if there's anything that you want me in particular to cover. I'm probably going to do a few more sort of like just demo videos where I'm running through doing a render a bit like this. Not necessarily just all tutorial, but an opportunity just to see an image like this come together and talk a little bit about some of the techniques involved. That's it. We're done. All done. Just look at that. It's 20 to 12. It's nearly midnight. I'm going to go to bed. Probably not midnight where you are or when you're watching this, but go to bed anyway. Why not?